Hello, hello, hello. My name is Pine. If you've never heard of me, that's unfortunate. But if you do know me, welcome back. I hope you are having a great day. So I just recently started rewatching Vampire Diaries with my boyfriend, and I've seen it, he has not. But it reminded me that they are based on books. That there's a whole series that the show is based on. I have watched all of all of the properties. I've seen Vampire Diaries, I've seen Legacies, and I've seen the originals. Not in that order. I actually watched it severely out of order. I watched Legacies, then when I learned it was a Vampire Diaries spinoff, I watched Vampire Diaries, and then the originals. And then everything made sense. But that's besides the point. I remembered that these books were they were based on books. So I was like, you know what? Let's read them. Let's read the books. What could go wrong? So that's what we're going to do. I looked into it, and get this, the first book, which I believe is called The Awakening, is on Kindle Unlimited. So we're going to read it, and we'll see how crazy it gets. So let's go. Okay, so I'm looking on my iPad. I'm on the Kindle app, and I just typed in Vampire Diaries, and I'm looking at all of the different books. There are so many different series. There's Vampire Diaries, which I take as the original, no pun intended, the original books, and then Vampire Diaries The Return, and Vampire Diaries Stefan's Diaries, The Salvation, The Hunters. What did I sign up for? And here's the thing. I'm the kind of person that will read every book in a series. Okay? That bookshelf behind me, the top 3.5 shelves are almost that entire bookcase is taken up just by Percy Jackson and Shadowhunters books. I am not above doing this. I will read every novel that has been written. Now, Vampire Diaries The Struggle? What is happening? Okay. I'm going to look up an article on how I'm going to try and find a reading order, and we'll go from there. Okay, so before I say what I'm going to say, my cat did jump onto my desk, so if my camera starts shaking, that's why. She's just kicking around. She'll come into frame in a second, probably. So I do want to preface this by saying I know a little bit about the books. I know there are major changes within the story and casting directions of the show. Hello, my girl. What are you doing? There are I know Elena is blonde in the books. I know Caroline is a redhead. I also know that L.J. Smith, after a certain point, had ghostwriters. Chicken. So I am aware of those changes. I don't know what really that entails, but I'm excited to see. So according to this website, I'm using a book or a blog called Maryse's Book Blog, I believe. And it says we start with Vampire Diaries, The Awakening, The Struggle, The Fury, and Dark Reunion. So, my God, there's so many. Oh my God. Okay, so I'm gonna start with this. I'm gonna download The Awakening, and we're gonna get started. I am very excited. So stick around if you want to see me learn a bunch of shit that I probably already know. Okay, so I'm on page 1. It says September 4th, Dear Diary, and then crossed out it says something awful is going to happen today. Intriguing. He said, and then it said, I don't know why I wrote that. It's crazy. There's no reason for me to be, upset and every reason for me to be happy. But here I am at 5:30 in the morning, awake and scared. I keep telling myself that I'm all messed up from the time difference between France and here. Okay. That makes me think it's Stefan. Because Stefan likes... Vampires are world travelers, if you haven't seen the show. They've been all over the place. But let's keep going. Okay, so I was immediately wrong. It says mom and dad, which inherently tells me it's Elena. Because it says mom and dad turned on the street. They didn't have cars in 1864. If this even is about 1864, because it could totally not be. They could have totally just picked a year. I know Julie Plec likes to do bullshit, so... Okay, so we've had a Caroline mention and a Matt mention. So those characters exist in the show. It appears that she has a 4-year-old sister named Margaret and not a teenage brother named Jeremy. And she has an aunt named Judith instead of an aunt named Jenna. So, okay, we'll rock with it. So I'm also noticing another difference, which is probably just what this video is going to be, is just me going, this is different, this is different, this is different, whatever. So this was said earlier, but I have confirmation now. Earlier, Elena had said that she has always lived in Fells Church. And then here it says he wasn't sure why he'd chosen Fells Church, Virginia. In the show, the town they live in is not called Fells Church. It is called Mystic Falls, Virginia. And there is an old church within, like, the old city limits of Mystic Falls called Fells Church that was run by... My cat tried to jump on my desk, is what that was. So, that's awesome. But there was an old church called Fells Church in Old Mystic Falls. So, that's a reference, I guess. I don't know why they couldn't just keep the town the same. Mystic Falls does admittedly sound much cooler than Fells Church. Fells Church sounds more southern, but Mystic Falls is way cooler. Okay, so I just finished chapter 1. I do have to get ready for work, so I have to put the reading on pause for now. But the high school is called Robert E. Lee High School. And the show is called Mystic Falls High, which is understandable. But that is a common thing in the South. I mean, in 2020, we had a big call for, getting any kind of glorification of Confederate soldiers or slave owners out. But there's a lot of that still around, especially in the South, like the deep South, like Virginia. And then also, I added the book, The Awakening, to my reading app. I have a reading tracking app. I use Storygraph. If you guys have better ones, please let me know. Not that Storygraph is bad, but the more apps I can use, the more fun it is. And this book came out in 1991. Huh? Ignore the pimple. What? 1991? I was not expecting that to be that old. I was expecting, like, the book to have come out in, like, 2005 and for it to be so insanely popular that the CW picked it up and made a show. I was not expecting it to go back to 91. That is crazy. Let's see how good it aged. Okay, so I'm reading again. I have a little bit of time before I have to go to work. So Elena has pulled up at school. Bonnie is short with red hair. There's also a character named Meredith, who I'm just totally unfamiliar with, as well as Stefan has pulled up. I know it's Stefan. They're trying to play him off as a tall, dark, handsome stranger. That's Stefan, okay? But more importantly, it says right here, noblesse oblige, which, I don't know what that means, but that is a, artifact set in Genshin Impact. So Vampire Diaries did it first. So I finished chapter 2. I'm on to chapter 3, which is talking more about, like, Stefan's past and stuff. And we're finding out that he is from Italy. Now, in Vampire Diaries, I believe he says he has Italian heritage. I mean, their last name is still Salvatore. That is a pretty obvious Italian last name. But it sounds like they were Italian, like, I don't want to say royalty, but they weren't not poor. Does that make sense? They were, it sounds like they were comfortable, let's say, and genuinely from Italy. And then Catherine pulls up, and we already got Stefan seeing Catherine for the first time, or Elena thinking it's Catherine for the first time. But it says here that, let me see if I can find it, that Catherine's father, Baron von Schwarzschild, I probably butchered that real nice, that Catherine is, like, German royalty, or, like, German court stuff. So that's interesting, because in the show, she is Bulgarian. But I think they just made that choice because Nina Dobrev is Bulgarian. So, I don't know, man. Okay, I'm reading in the dark, so you're gonna have to bear with me, but, Elena's parents are still dead. They did still die in the car accident. It doesn't say anything about whether or not she was in the car. She was. It stated multiple times that she was in the car when it happened in the series. I don't know if she was in the car for this. We'll see. Shockingly enough, and I wasn't expecting this, we have a Klaus mention in book 1. On page 80 of book 1, we have a Klaus mention. That I was not expecting. I was expecting a lot of the other stuff. I mean, there's a little bit I wasn't expecting in terms of, like, what's changed in the book to the show. I didn't mention this earlier. Matt has a different last name. His last name is Honeycutt and not Donovan. And Tyler is Smallwood instead of Lockwood. I like Lockwood better. But anyway, a Klaus mention in book 1. Okay. So, it's interesting to me that L.J. Smith made the Salvatores from Italy, right? Like, from Italy. And, how do I say this? Julie Plec decided to make them from the South, which is fine. I don't mind that particularly. I do mind that Damon fought in the Civil War on the side of the South. In this, it says that Damon went to the university. That's just what it's called. It's called the university, so I assume whatever local university existed in Rome at the time. I don't know. They're not specifying what year this is or anything. I don't know. So we're getting more context about Bonnie's family in the book. She's Scottish, which is possible in the show. Possible. She has a sister, which she doesn't in the show, and a mother who we never see. The only, like, parental figure, sorry, I had a cat hair in my mouth. The only, like, parental figure we ever see is her grandma, and we only see her for, like, a little bit in season 1. More importantly, though, her last name in the book is McCullough. Who is Bonnie McCullough? Okay. There's a lot of things happening. These are entirely different characters than what I'm used to at this point. Wow. Okay, excuse me. I'm reading in the dark again. I've been at work and school all day. This is the first opportunity I've had to read. I think one of the things I'm struggling with specifically is that this is not how teenagers speak. Teenagers don't talk like this. And I'm like, I get the Stefan, I don't know how old he's supposed to be. I can't really tell that, because he said he has a 15th century Italian coin, Florentine coin, so I don't know if that's like a family heirloom or he's that old. It hasn't been said yet. But what I'm struggling with is that this is not how teenagers speak. So, little recap, Tyler, Elena, and a couple other people, go to this graveyard. Tyler tries to assault Elena, not good, and then Stefan shows up, saves her, takes her to the boarding house, which he does not own, by the way, is not the Salvatore boarding house. But then they come back, and Elena's like, why do you hate me? He's like, I don't hate you, you remind me of someone, talking about Catherine. And Elena asks what happened, and he says she died. Technically true, as far as he knows. And then it said, the last of her anger folded up and disappeared from under her. That must have hurt terribly. No teenager says that must have hurt terribly. Stefan would say it, because he's older, and that's, like, how people talked back then, but a teenage girl... This book was written in 1991. Even a girl in the 90s wouldn't have said that, so I'm just struggling with that a little bit, but so far, so good. Okay, so I'm reading a little bit more before I have to go to work today, and it says that Stefan was born in the late 15th century. So he is significantly older than the version in the show. The version in the show, he was turned in 1864 at like 17? I'll do the math on that later because I don't want to do it now, and I'll put it on screen. But so this means he is about 400 years old instead of like 160. Sure. Okay. Once again, I am reading in the dark. I like it like that. So we just got a little bit of Stefan's backstory in the book. So Stefan and Damon both drank from Catherine, which is the same thing that happened in the show. But it sounds like they just woke up. So they killed each other. They got into a sword fight because apparently Catherine took off her daylight ring, exposing herself to the sun. She burned to death, supposedly. I don't know if I believe that, because that doesn't sound like the Catherine I know, but this is an entirely different thing, so it could be true. But, so they fought. Stefan and Damon fought about it. They killed each other with their own swords. And then they just woke up, and it seemed like they were vampires. It didn't seem like they needed to feed. If anything, it sounds like after Stefan drank from Catherine, that's when he needed to drink blood. He didn't have to die and then drink blood, like they do in the show. I don't know, man. I'm just here to read. Okay, so I finished it. I have a lot of thoughts about it. Some good, some bad. I'm going to do a quick overview. It wasn't bad. It wasn't a bad book. Ignore my unmade bed, by the way. It wasn't a bad book by any means. I struggled with the writing a little bit. L.J. Smith's writing, it was a little hard to follow, but I think that's because I'm so attached to the show version of things that I had a hard time separating what was happening. But I also realized pretty early on that the book and the show are not even remotely the same property. But like in general, the story was fine. I didn't particularly hate it. It just kind of felt like things just sort of happened. And so that was odd. Like there's a part, so Bonnie's family has a dog. Pekingese, I think is what it was. And they're at Bonnie's house, and somehow they just like, they go outside and the dog is just dead. So I don't really know how that happened. There were a couple scenes where I checked out and just things were happening and I thought it was weird, but in general, not a bad read. It was a good start for a series. Obviously, the series was very popular, which I didn't know. And I didn't know it came out so long ago. I was expecting it to have come out like 2005-ish. But 1991, who would have thunk? But more importantly, yeah, these are two entirely different properties with two entirely different points. And I think that is so interesting. I thought it was kind of short. I was reading, I have a Kindle. It's plugged in. Hold on. I have a Kindle. I have not touched this in like a year because I got an iPad that I can actually play games on. This is a Kindle Fire. So it does have games, but it's got like the crappy ad-ridden slop. So I read it on this, and on my iPad it had 303 pages. I don't know what the actual page count is, but I thought it was kind of short, and it didn't get interesting until the very end. Until the very end, where we have the confrontation between Stefan and Damon. And then Elena, like, calls out to Damon. So I thought that was good. And there are a couple other authors that I've seen like that. I can't name any right now. But their books were, like, mildly interesting, and then the ending just ramped it up. So, like, in terms of plot, it was not bad. Just, I had a hard time understanding what was going on because I'm so attached to the show version of events that this was just adding shit. So, you know what, actually, I think it'd be really fun if I made a video talking about all of the differences after I read all these books, talking about the differences between the show and the books. So, if you want that, please let me know down below. But overall, this was like I don't know, I'll give it a 6.5 out of 10. I think in my last video I gave it stars, so let me do that. I'll give it 3.5. Middle of the road. Not disappointing. It gets an extra half star for the intriguing end. So, yeah. Overall, not bad. I will definitely be reading the next one. I will vlog that one as well. But if you guys had a good time, I don't know if you saw that. That's my cat right there. That's my cat. If you guys had a good time watching this, please let me know. I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you so much for watching. And I've been Pine. See you later.